You're listening to the Cool Audio Podcast, your escape into the world of stories, sounds, and imagination. Whether you're driving, chilling at home, or just need a moment to unplug, we've got a story just for you. So sit back, relax, and let the journey begin. It was too late when Chloe realized something wasn't right because the bug's body had turned into liquid. The bug was drawn by the blood from Justin's wound and had landed on the bandage. "Justin, are you okay?" Chloe looked at him anxiously. They were in a jungle, and Chloe was afraid that bug was poisonous and would kill Justin. "I'm fine." Justin didn't feel anything out of order because the bacteria in his blood hadn't taken control of his mind yet. But 10 minutes later, Justin felt hot all over and his eyes turned red. His blood had contracted the strongest aphrodisiac in the world. Yeah, that bug was a love bug that Layla nurtured. It was drawn by blood, and its poison would taint the blood and spread to the victim's brain, making the victim do things he wouldn't do normally. Justin had been celibate for years since he fell in love with Chloe, which made the aphrodisiac more effective on him. "Justin, what's wrong? Are you in pain?" Chloe was terrified when she saw Justin's body tremble slightly. She reached out to feel his forehead, but he grabbed her wrist tightly. He stared at her with heat in his eyes. "Justin, say something. What's happening? I'm scared." Chloe was anxious. "Chloe, I think I got drugged with aphrodisiac. I can't control myself. Get away from me." Then he pushed her away with the last strength he had. Chloe dropped to the ground in stupefaction. Aphrodisiac? Sudden understanding dawned on her. The people behind the scenes were vicious. It was a sinister method that Zoe couldn't come up with. Watching the scene on the monitor screen, Layla asked Hunter with a laugh, "Isn't it fun?" "Yeah, this is fun," Hunter nodded. "In a while, Justin will force into the pregnant Chloe. Oh, by the way, the amount of the aphrodisiac in him will make him go on without stopping for 3 hours. If he does it, she'd lose the BS in her belly." A glint flashed across Hunter's eyes when he heard her words. "But this isn't the most interesting part. I'll record the whole process of their coupling with high resolution and then show it to Jack. It would be thrilling." To be honest, Layla's sinister words made Hunter sick. He couldn't imagine how such a vicious woman could exist in this world. She'd not only ruin Chloe's friendship with Justin, but get rid of Chloe's baby through Justin's hand. Chloe would be in labor soon. If Justin wasn't careful, he'd kill not only the baby, but Chloe as well. Hunter thought even he, a violent alternate personality, wouldn't do such an inhuman thing. But Layla, with her pure and harmless-looking face resembling Chloe's, was quite creative in playing with people. "What do you think Justin will do after he wakes up and learns the crimes he committed?" Layla held Hunter's neck and said the words in a mysterious way. "He'd kill himself. But Justin was once in the Special Forces and has great self-control. Maybe he can control himself," Hunter analyzed. "If he does it, he'd implode. It would be more entertaining if Justin dropped dead in front of Chloe." Hearing her words, Hunter's heart sank. Meanwhile, in the shed, the air was tense. Justin seemed to know that he couldn't control himself. He hugged himself in a corner and shivered all over. "Justin." Chloe wanted to help him but didn't know how. "Don't come close. Chloe, please, stay away from me as far as you can get." Justin wanted to protect Chloe subconsciously, but the shed was small, and she couldn't get far enough. "Justin, let me feel your pulse and see if the drug in your body is aphrodisiac or just toxic. If necessary, I can bleed you with acupuncture." Chloe didn't want to watch Justin suffer and wanted to do something for him, but she underestimated how much the drug controlled Justin. When she moved closer to him, Justin pushed her to the ground and gripped her wrists with a maniac look in his eyes. He was deeply in love with Chloe. Now, spurred by the strong drug, he almost couldn't control himself. He had been suppressing the desire for a long time, and every second was long and painful. "Justin." Chloe's voice was small. She wasn't scared because she knew Justin could never bear to hurt her. Watching Justin suffer like this, she felt heartbroken. "Whoa, the drama begins so soon." Layla was satisfied with Justin's behavior, thinking he had totally lost control when he pushed Chloe to the ground so rudely. Hunter watched the scene but didn't speak. An unnamed look appeared in his eyes. Before another monitor screen, the maid put an exquisite cup of coffee on the table before the woman wearing the crystal mask. "Boss, here's your coffee." "Okay. Boss, will Miss Layla endanger Miss Chloe and her baby?" The maid seemed to be concerned about Chloe. "If she loses to Layla so easily, she doesn't deserve to be my daughter." Beneath the crystal mask was Lynn's ultimately beautiful face. Professor Wagner had once said that even Fiona, who had an extremely beautiful face, didn't have 1/10 of her mother's beauty. Mostly, she didn't have her mother's charming smile that could bring down even a country. Lynn's mask was sewed with golden thread. With crystals inlaid around the eyes, it looked like an angel's wing. She always wore elegant, low-cut evening gowns. This champagne-colored dress glittered charmingly. Everyone in this place was afraid of her, including the maid Messiah, who had worked for her for a long time. "Shall we tell Miss Layla to show mercy to Miss Chloe?" the maid asked tentatively. Lynn smiled. "With Layla's personality, if you tell her that, she'll double her efforts." Yeah, she knew Layla's cruelty better than anyone else. The maid didn't dare to say more. Lying under Justin with her wrists gripped hard in his hands, Chloe couldn't move a muscle. If he wanted to do something to her, she couldn't stop him. If he was her enemy, she'd use some extreme methods to protect herself. But he was Justin, and Chloe would never do anything to hurt him, even though he might kill her. Justin leaned toward Chloe's ear, looking as if he was bending to kiss her on the monitor screen. But only the two of them knew what was happening. Justin leaned close to Chloe's ear and whispered, "Chloe, kill me. I know you can do it." Chloe looked at him in astonishment. She shook her head violently. No matter what, she'd never kill Justin unconscientiously. "But if I did something to hurt you, I'd not survive it." Justin's crimson eyes flashed with tears. Heartbroken, Chloe wept. She pushed Justin away forcefully and yelled, "But you can't do it. I can't allow you to be so cowardly and talk about death as if life is nothing to you. You only have one life, one!" Chloe yelled hysterically. Due to her violent emotions, her womb contracted. She bent down with her hands on her belly. Chloe, worried, Justin wanted to go to her but was afraid he'd hurt her. "Justin, we can't be defeated by these evil people. We're the strongest warriors and you're my best friend. We can't lose to those despicable fellows." Chloe pointed at the camera as if she was making an oath or issuing a challenge. Layla's eyes turned chilly, surprised by Chloe's reaction. She had heard many rumors about Chloe but had dismissed them as false. After all, how much power could such an ordinary woman have? She had been disdainful of Chloe. Hearing Chloe's words, Justin was touched. He tried to say something, but the effect of the drugs surged up and made it impossible to control himself. He had the urge to push Chloe to the ground and devour her, but a voice in him told him he couldn't do it. "Justin, calm down. Justin, don't do stupid things. She's the most important person to you, and you can't hurt her." For one instant, Justin seemed to have many personalities in him, and lots of voices began to talk at the same time in his mind. When he lost control and lunged toward Chloe again, he turned forcefully and crashed his head into the wall with vicious force. He hit himself so hard that he got dizzy and broke his forehead. "Justin!" Chloe yelled, feeling heartbroken. She ran over to help him up despite the discomfort in her belly. "Chloe, I'm sorry. I don't want to hurt you, but I don't know what to do." After the forceful impact on his head, he suppressed the effect of the drug a little bit and regained some of his senses. "Are you stupid? Are you stupid? Why did you smash your head into the wall? You might have died. Do you understand? You big moron!" Chloe berated him in tears, feeling anxious and angry at the same time. She wanted to give him a good beating, but seeing his condition, she couldn't bear to do it. Justin smiled weakly. "I'd rather die than hurt you." He couldn't go on like this. If he crashed his head into the wall again, he'd die. Chloe collapsed inside and held Justin in tears. "Justin, go to sleep for a while. Leave everything to me. Be a good boy. I'll wake you up later." Wiping her tears from her face, she pushed a tiny needle coated with anesthetic into his back. He didn't feel any pain. He just got very sleepy. He reached out to touch Chloe's pure and elegant face. But before he could touch her, he closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. It was a super strong anesthetic developed by Chloe herself. Afraid it would have side effects on his nervous system, she had been hesitating to use it on him. It was a much stronger anesthetic than the one used on him during the surgery. She had planned to use it on her enemies, but she had used the first needle on Justin. Justin fell asleep in Chloe's arms, and she almost broke down mentally. 3 minutes later, she put him down slowly and took off her coat, draping it over him. She stood up and gave the middle finger to the monitor camera. "Dumb a-hole. If you want me, then come and get me. No matter if you're a man or a woman, get the hell over here." It was the first time that Chloe cursed, and she looked super cool. Looking at the arrogant woman on the monitor screen, Hunter had fire burning in his eyes. He had finally understood why Andrew loved this woman so much. Chloe's behavior caught Layla by surprise. She had been waiting to watch a good drama, but finally, she stood up lazily and looked at Chloe on the screen, saying, "These lowly mortals. They made me realize brains are good stuff." Meanwhile, on a helicopter, "Boss, something's disrupting our signals. We can't fly directly to our destination." "What do you mean?" Fiona was discussing with Jack about the rescue plan. Her face fell when she heard the words of her subordinate. "The place we're heading to has a powerful source of interfering signals, making it impossible for us to land on the designated location. We can only land 50 kilometers away from our destination and try to drive over there with a map." "Signal interference source? FK, I just can't believe it. I'll decode it." As a top-level hacker, Fiona had seldom met her match and could decode any signal she encountered. Taking out her laptop, she began to work. But 1 minute passed, 2 minutes passed, 10 minutes passed. Jack didn't speak because he knew they were in trouble by looking at Fiona's expression. Damn it. What's this damned thing? Fiona worked for 10 minutes but only unraveled a tiny part of it. At this speed, she'd not be able to decode it before the helicopter landed. "The professor said our enemies have top-level hackers." Jack had expected the battle wasn't an easy one. "What top-level hackers? They are all lame. I just don't believe it." Fiona continued working on it as she cursed, but still she couldn't decode it in time. She was too embarrassed to say that she had never seen such complicated code before. "Boss, we must land in 15 minutes. What shall we do?" "Land 50 kilometers from our destination. We'll drive there." Fiona had no choice but to resort to the slow method. The helicopter was about to land when Fiona's watch beeped. "Dad, what's up? Where are you?" "On my way to rescue my sister." "What? Come back immediately." Professor Wagner was furious. "Dad, are you dumb? Why must we go back? My brother-in-law and I will reach our destination soon. My sister is there. You must leave immediately. You can't go there." "Why not?" Fiona was puzzled. "I'm now in Iceland to confirm something. I can only tell you after I'm sure of it. Anyway, you can't go there. I'm afraid you're not their match. Listen to me. You must come back with Jack." The professor tried to dissuade her. "That's ridiculous. I'm afraid of no one. No matter who they are, I won't allow them to mess with my sister." Fiona hung up before her father could reply. No one could stop her from saving her sister. "Listen, get ready to land." Fiona stood up and looked down at the big stretch of green jungle like a queen. Fiona and Jack left in a hurry, and only Anne knew about their departure. Anne told the others after they were gone. Noah was furious that Jack didn't bring him to the rescue mission. After all, he was a municipal official and had some abilities. Anne had wanted to go with them to help Fiona. Before they boarded the plane, Anne ran to Fiona and Jack. "Queen Fiona, President Dawson, I want to go with you. I want to help." Jack didn't speak. He glanced at Fiona. Fiona always handled things without a fuss. She glanced at Anne and then one of her male subordinates. The guy was tall and thin with an ordinary-looking face. "I'll give you 30 seconds to fight him. If you can beat him, come with us. If you can't, just forget it." She took out a timer to set the time. Anne dashed over and fought the guy with all he had, but in less than 25 seconds, he was knocked down by his opponent. When he got up, the time was up. Without a word, Fiona turned and boarded the plane. Watching the plane took off silently, Anne was so ashamed that he wanted to die. Before he met Fiona, Anne had thought he was a very good fighter. He practiced his fighting skills with President Cooper occasionally and had protected Chloe for years. He was a good bodyguard, but it turned out he was nothing compared with Fiona's subordinates. He finally understood why Fiona could beat Hunter senseless in a minute, while several of them couldn't deal with him at Chloe's birthday party on the yacht. He had to admit that Fiona was born with the aura of a goddess, and returned to Imperial Star that afternoon, knowing the company had lots of problems to solve while Justin was absent. The vice president was running the company, but he was after all not the big boss, and did some work back in the company and cleaned Justin's office. When he walked out of the building, Melody stopped him at the back door of the company. And, "Miss Melody, don't call me Miss Melody, call me Melody." She wore a short white wadded jacket, jeans and white sneakers, looking always like a vibrant university student. "It's a habit. I'll need time to change it." "And you didn't go with President Cooper on the business trip?" No, Anne answered hurriedly. "Where did President Cooper go?" "He went to the south," Anne answered evasively. "Which city?" she continued. "He's supposed to go to H City first, and then L City." Anne said the cities that Justin used to go to in the past. She looked at him suspiciously. "No, Sister Chloe told me President Cooper went to J City." "Oh, then he went to J City later," Anne corrected immediately. "And don't lie to me. I know you guys are keying things from me. Sister Chloe didn't tell me, and you don't tell me either. But it's been days, and President Cooper can't go on a business trip without bringing his cell phone with him. I know something's not right. Can you tell me the truth?" "Miss Melody, and please, I swear I won't tell anyone. Please tell me the truth. I'm very worried about Justin." Desperately, Melody begged Anne. At first, she had thought Justin was on a business trip, but the more that she thought about it, the more suspicious she became. The biggest plot hole of the story was that he couldn't be reached through his cell phone. Now that Chloe was nowhere to be seen, and Anne was so evasive, she knew Justin was in trouble. "Miss Melody, listen to me, about what happened." And originally wanted to make up some lame excuse. However, his heart wouldn't let him do it when he saw the look on her face. Rather, he paused for a second before suddenly changing the subject. "Melody, do you like President Cooper?" "No, I don't," Melody denied, and Anne shook his head, unconvinced of her words. Melody continued, "I'm in love with Justin. I'm head over heels in love with him." Upon hearing this, Anne's face reddened in embarrassment. "Ahem. Why are you so embarrassed that I'm in love with Justin? Anyways, can you please tell me where Justin is?" And fell silent again. After all, Jack and Fiona went looking for him already. With Fiona there, Justin would probably be home by sunrise. Therefore, he decided to tell Melody the truth. President Cooper was kidnapped. "What?" Melody's chin almost fell out of its socket in shock. She stood frozen on the spot. Who was capable of kidnapping someone like Justin? Was that even possible? "Too many factors are involved, so that's all I can tell you. I'm sorry, Melody." "And how is Justin right now? Did the kidnappers demand a ransom?" Melody grabbed the corner of Anne's shirt, refusing to let him leave without a fight. That would make things much easier. The company has billions to offer in case of a ransom, but the problem is that they don't want money. "Then why are they here?" "For revenge. They're President Cooper's enemies," Anne said with worry. "So what are we supposed to do? Call the police?" "We can't. It's too dangerous. God, what should we do then? What's going to happen to Justin?" Melody's face turned pale white in horror and anxiety. "Don't worry. President Dawson and President Green are on their way to rescue them. I believe in them." "President Green? Chloe went too?" Melody exclaimed. "Yeah, Melody, please don't tell anyone about this. If the media finds out, not only will Imperial Star's stocks fall, the employees will also freak out." Melody nodded in determination. "Don't worry, Anne, I won't say anything, not even if I die." You should go back to work for them. The vice president is looking after the company right now. Everything is how it should be. By the way, you guys are going into the season finale soon, right?" "Yeah, the finale is next week." Melody smiled bitterly. "Good for you. I'm rooting for you." "I really hope President Cooper will be there to cheer me on the night of the finale." "He will. President Cooper is a good man. He'll come home safely." After ending their conversation, Melody lost the will to rehearse, so she went back to her dorm and crashed into her bed. Easton has been non-stop flirting with her, but she rarely responded to his messages. She didn't even agree to have dinner with him. After all, she didn't want to lead him on, because he really wasn't her type. After Rory left, Lin Hang disappeared. She was no longer in the middle of some weird love triangle, leaving her heart feeling lighter than ever. She was supposed to enjoy her occasional encounter with Justin, but he ended up being kidnapped. And didn't say anything, but Melody had a feeling that Justin was in grave danger. Taking out her phone, Melody found a photo of Justin on Google and grazed his smile with her fingers. She was terrified that she might not be able to see him again. "Justin, come back safely, okay? If you come back in one piece, I'll tell you how I feel about you." While Melody worried in her dorm, Noah's house was in a mess as well. Jack left in a rush. He had asked Noah to pick the twins up at South Hill Manor. Before driving off, Jack asked Noah to take care of Pudding and Little Bean if he and Chloe never return. The twins, without knowing anything, went home with Noah without asking any questions. As soon as they arrived, Pudding and Little Bean went to play in Ethan's room, while Sarah cooked for everyone in the kitchen. Noah quickly sneaked into the kitchen and told her what Jack had said to him, word for word. Upon hearing this, Sarah pointed a spatula at her husband angrily. "Did Jack really say that?" "Mm-hmm." "Damn it, how are we supposed to take care of his children? I can't imagine the twins without their parents." Jack said, "If. We should stay optimistic." Noah put an arm around Sarah. "If my ass. No ifs. Nothing can happen to Chloe. Nothing can happen to any of them," Sarah exclaimed anxiously. She was a loud person to begin with. "Shh, honey, quiet down. We don't want Pudding and Little Bean to hear." "Did he say when he'll be back?" "No." "You said you were going to call the local police office for help. Did you call?" "Jack told me not to, in case we scare off the enemy." "Why are you so useless? Why didn't you go with him?" Sarah punched her husband angrily. She really thought her husband would be of help at times like this. "Jack told me to stay. He said his sister-in-law was good enough." Noah didn't know whether to laugh or cry. All right, get out of the kitchen. It's so stuffy in here." Sarah then went back to cooking while praying to all the gods that Jack and Chloe would be all right. She wondered why Chloe's life was filled with so much adversity. There was a reason Sarah never admired what Chloe had. She knew Chloe got to where she was by enduring so much hardship. Half an hour later, Sarah placed more than a dozen dishes onto the dining table. She really put her heart and soul into her cooking. She even sliced the meat extremely thin because she wanted the twins to eat a lot. "Wow, this all smells so good. I smelled the food from all the way upstairs. Auntie Sarah, your cooking skills are amazing." Little Bean began to ass-kiss before she even sat down. "Your future mother-in-law will peg you as a suck-up," Pudding laughed. "Go away! Leave the room if you don't want food." "Why should I leave? You weren't the only person Auntie Sarah invited," Pudding argued. "Aren't you supposed to eat at Auntie Victoria's?" Little Bean laughed evilly. "Girls, no arguing. Go wash your hands and come back to eat." Although Sarah didn't give birth to the twins, she still loved them like she loved Ethan. Soon, the five of them sat around the dining table and began to enjoy Sarah's cooking. After dinner, Little Bean and Ethan went to play in the living room. Pudding, on the other hand, seemed to be watching some variety show on her iPad. When Sarah went into the kitchen to wash the dishes, however, Pudding walked out to the balcony, where Noah was making a call. He had alerted the police forces in Yunnan to see if they could lend a hand to Jack when he needed it. "Uncle Ace." Pudding's sudden arrival startled Noah. He quickly said into the phone, "Call me if you hear anything," before hanging up in a rush. He turned around and flashed a guilty smile. "Pudding, why are you here?" "Oh, I wanted to hang out with you." "Sure, come sit." Noah waved his hand. Their balcony was quite big. Chloe had helped Sarah with the design. It was set up like a giant garden, with wicker chairs on either side and a round coffee table in the middle. Sarah had placed shelves on either side of the balcony and filled them up with different trees and plants. Anyone who stepped onto the balcony would feel like they were in close contact with nature. Noah sat down on a chair off to the left, while Pudding sat down across from him. "Do you want fruit? I'll get some for you." "Uncle Ace, I'm super full from dinner." "Okay then. Uncle Ace, are things busy at the bureau?" Same old, same old. We get 100 cases a day, and things are a mess. My job reminds me of why it's better to start my own business, like your daddy." Noah smiled as he complained about work to Pudding. Pudding tilted her head and leaned back on her chair. "Daddy's work is really stressful too. He's so quiet and rarely talks about things that bother him. You're very much like your daddy, aren't you? Noah smiled. That's what everyone says, but he's so much more than I am. He can do anything for Mommy, but I can't. I don't know how to give to my family. You're still young. You'll understand more once you grow up. Noah didn't want to go into too much detail because Pudding was a kid after all. He couldn't help but wonder why their conversation was so depressing. Uncle Ace, what kind of person do you think I am? You? Yes, can you rate me objectively? Haha, that's not a good idea. It's okay, my heart isn't made of glass, Pudding said in all seriousness. Noah, stumped, thought about it for a few seconds. Then, he said slowly, you're smart, proud, and icy like your dad. You're also like your mom in that you're generous but unfazed. You really are a genius, baby. So, Uncle Ace, will you say that I can be trusted? Of course, you're extremely loyal and kind-hearted. Noah thought back to the time Ethan and Sarah were trapped at the hotel. They were able to narrowly escape danger because Pudding told Ethan to set off the fire alarm. Her suggestion not only saved Sarah's life, it also showed how smart Pudding was. Some adults would freak out under a situation like that. Thank you for thinking so highly of me. Then, can you tell me where my daddy and mommy went? Pudding finally got to her point. Upon hearing this, Noah sat up anxiously. Pudding, listen to me. Uncle Ace, don't try to brush me off. I won't fall for it. Just tell me the truth, or else I'll think the worst and get all worried. As their daughter, I have the right to know what kind of situation they're in. Pudding's calmness reminded Noah of Chloe. She looked like a lawyer arguing in court. Noah couldn't help but avoid Pudding's sharp gaze. He originally thought he could think of a random excuse, but that plan just went straight down the drain. Pudding successfully left a bureau director speechless. Without answering the question, Noah took out a pack of cigarettes and a lighter. Pudding, would you mind if I have a cigarette? Pudding shook her head emotionlessly. She could tell from Noah's grave tone that her parents were in danger. Why else would the director of the city bureau look so worried? Little Bean, who was playing with Ethan in the living room, seemed to have detected that something was off. She tilted her head at the balcony. Why is my sister out on the balcony with Uncle Ace? They're probably talking about stocks. Isn't Pudding a stock market genius? My dad invests as well. Ethan's thoughts were simpler. Little Bean shook her head, worried. You think so? Her expression looked serious. Pudding's the smartest person on earth. I'm sure she's fine. Don't worry, maybe my dad's out of pocket money and is asking Pudding for some. Ethan was always so optimistic about everything. It was this outgoing personality that helped ease Little Bean's worries. She quickly went back to playing with him. Out on the balcony, Noah quickly summarized what happened with Pudding as he smoked his cigarette. He made it short and simple. 1. Justin was kidnapped. 2. The kidnapper called Chloe to meet them. 3. Jack and Fiona went to rescue Chloe and Justin. In the beginning, Pudding's heart was heavier than ever as she found out that the people she loved most were all in danger. However, towards the end, when Noah told her about Fiona, Pudding laughed. She reconfirmed. Auntie went with Daddy? Yeah, your auntie is super rich. She took your daddy in her private jet, Noah said. Good. If Auntie Fiona's there, I'm sure they'll all be fine. Let's celebrate with Hot Pot once they come home, Pudding said with a smile. Then, she stood up and said to Noah with a serious expression on her face, Thank you for telling me the truth, Uncle Ace. Then, she ran back into the room. She's so persuasive it's freaky. I can never brush her off. Noah scratched his head helplessly. GK headquarters. When Jack left, he gave some orders to Thomas and Stella. He wasn't very worried, because Mark was there as well. After the morning meeting, Stella pulled Thomas off to the side. She waved her hands and gestured at an empty hallway. Thomas, come with me. I need to talk to you. Honey, what's wrong? Why are you being so mysterious? Thomas was the best husband of the year. He was literally whipped. Thomas, do you feel like something's off? Where? Here? No, at home. At home? No, everything seems fine. Thomas was a good man, but because he was so pure, he often overlooked the evils that lurked in this world. Growing up, Chloe protected him well. Plus, ever since James came home, Thomas had been in such a good mood that he ate more and slept better. He took James shopping from time to time and bought him new clothes, shoes, and even a cell phone. Thomas treasured the time he could spend with his father, whom he had just regained. "Did Dad say anything weird to you when you guys were out?" Stella asked carefully. "No, why do you ask? Is something wrong?" "Oh, nothing's wrong. I'm just worried for Mom and Dad's safety. During my morning run, I overheard the security guard say that a lot of people in our complex lost their pets." Stella was worried that Thomas may get suspicious, so she changed the subject to puppies and kittens. "Oh, isn't that normal? Everyone here has purebred pets, and each animal costs thousands. I'm not surprised to hear that thieves are interested as well." "But who would steal so many animals all at once? Plus, it's weird. None of the cameras caught anything." Stella felt like something was off, so she wanted to analyze the situation with Thomas. Thomas, however, wasn't fazed at all. Thieves are all super skilled, so of course they paid attention to the surveillance cameras. Maybe the security guard stole all those animals. "I'm so glad we don't own a pet." Thomas's remarks gave Stella an idea. She quickly walked into her office, made a Google search, and dialed the number of a pet store. "I want your smartest dog. Yeah, send it to my office." That day after work, Stella and Thomas drove home with a golden retriever puppy. As soon as they got home, the puppy began barking madly at James. It howled at James like he was the devil. The puppy's barks scared Sandra so much that she went into her room to hide. "Guys, why did you bring a dog home?" "Mom, I bought the dog. Isn't he cute? I named him Hachi." Stella bent down and rubbed the puppy's head. Thomas smiled lovingly at his wife. "Mom, Stella's always wanted a dog. We recently watched a movie called Hachi, A Dog's Tale, and the main character is a Shiba Inu. In the movie, the dog was so loyal to its owner that Stella's been talking about getting a dog for a while now. Now, our home will always be filled with laughter." "I'm okay with us getting a dog, but once you give birth, you'll have to move out, and I'll take care of the dog, so the baby's safe." "Mom, we're not moving out anymore. We're going to mooch off you guys forever." Thomas put his arms around his mom. James, who was sitting off to the side, looked at the dog with a dark expression on his face. Thomas laughed as he pointed at the puppy. "Dad, isn't he handsome? Golden retrievers are super smart animals." James took a few guilty steps back. "It's handsome. I'm glad you guys like him." Stella immediately noticed how different James acted. Hachi, who was unfamiliar with his surroundings, kept barking, especially when James was near him. James seemed to have noticed this, so he kept his distance. "Dad doesn't like dogs?" Stella asked her mother-in-law quietly when she saw James retreat to the study. Sandra, who was knitting a sweater, laughed. "He used to like dogs. Back then, someone gave him a giant dog and he treated him like a piece of treasure. The dog was later stolen, and he was depressed for a long time afterwards. Since then, he's never owned a dog. He's an introvert, but he's a great man who is good to everyone." "He is." Stella smiled half-heartedly. She really wanted to tell Sandra that the man living here was not the man she was married to. After dinner, Stella went on a stroll outside. She overheard some alarming news when she passed by some neighbors. She walked up to them. "What's going on, guys?" "They found the missing pets," a woman answered. "Where did they find them?" Stella asked, feeling startled. "The security guards just took them away." "Took them away? What do you mean?" Stella asked with confusion. "It was disgusting. I think some psychopaths living in our area. The pets were all murdered. The security guards took their bodies away. We only heard about it because someone reported a murder today, and the police dogs were here to sniff out the body. They found them all buried under a fountain in the park. My God, it was so messy. I heard that someone drained them their blood." "Someone drained the pets of their blood?" Stella listened in horror. "Yeah, no one knows who did it, but could you imagine who would be crazy enough to do it? It really scared me, so I'm going to stay at my mother-in-law's place for a few days. I want to move out of Sky Blessing Court. Apparently the woman who died in Building 5 was drained of blood as well. Oh my God. I can't talk about it anymore. I'm getting goosebumps again." The middle-aged woman left after disclosing the information she had, and the crowd slowly dispersed. Everything happened so suddenly that Stella had a feeling that things were more complicated than they seem. Thinking back at what Jack and Chloe told her, Stella's body tensed with worry. Did all this really have something to do with that man? With a heavy heart, Stella went home. Thomas was playing a video game upstairs, while Sandra and James were watching TV on the couch. Stella glanced at James. His expression was blank. He had been very quiet and didn't talk to anyone unless they engaged in conversation first. Stella had never met James before, so she didn't know what he used to be like before he did. However, she did know that the man in front of her gave her serious creeps. Stella then turned around to see her puppy sitting quietly in a corner. She had a bowl in front of her with some leftovers from dinner. "Mom, he eats kibble. You don't have to feed him human food." Stella picked Hachi up with a smile. She was going to take him upstairs, but suddenly changed her mind. With Hachi in her arms, Stella sat down on the couch, right next to James. All of a sudden, Hachi jumped at James. Almost instinctively, James's large hand came slapping down at Hachi, throwing the poor puppy off the couch and onto the floor. He must have used a lot of force, because Hachi howled with pain. "Hey, why is Hachi trying to bite him?" Worried about James, Sandra scooched up to look at his hand, but James slapped her hand away violently. Then, with an icy expression on his face, he spat, "I don't like dogs. Send him away tomorrow or else I'll make him pay." Upon hearing this, Stella quickly picked up Hachi, who was curled up on the floor in horror. He really was scared of dogs. Why was a man so scared of a little puppy? Stella's heart fell. She doesn't know a single person who was as scared of dogs as he was, not even children. James had never lost his temper since he came home, so his sudden burst frightened Sandra as well. She watched as James stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. Worried about her daughter-in-law, Sandra tried to console Stella. "Stella, don't be angry. Your dad wasn't mad at you. I think he's still adjusting to his old life." "Mom, I'm fine. I should have been more careful. I didn't think Dad would hate dogs to this extent." Stella forced out a smile and carried Hachi upstairs. Thomas, who had no idea what had just happened downstairs, was still playing his video game. "Thomas, stop playing. I have something important to tell you." "Sure, shoot," Thomas said, his eyes still glued to the screen. "Someone died. I think it has something to do with Dad." Stella went straight to the point. Upon hearing this, Thomas froze and turned to stare at Stella, shock written all over his face. "Honey, am I hearing right? What are you talking about? My dad committed murder?" "I didn't think he murdered anyone, but I think he had something to do with it. I also think he has something to do with the pets that were murdered." Only then did Thomas detect the seriousness of the situation. He turned off his computer, turned around, and placed Hachi, who was whimpering quietly in pain, down on the bed. Thomas placed his hands around Stella, and the latter began telling him everything she heard that evening. After listening to everything, Thomas stood up for his long-lost father. "Honey, you have to be reasonable. You can't suspect Dad because of what you heard. Also, you heard Mom. Dad doesn't like dogs because he lost his last dog. Plus, he slapped Hachi because he tried to bite Dad. That's not enough proof to accuse him of murder. That's a very serious accusation." Stella took a deep breath and explained calmly. "But you have to admit that Dad's being weird. Last night, Mom and I heard a weird noise, and Dad said it was a bird. I don't believe him. Plus, we didn't see any birds in the morning." "Didn't Dad say that he let the bird go?" Thomas asked. "Are you going to believe everything he says?" "But he's my dad." "But what if he's not your dad?" Stella questioned. "What are you talking about? Who is he supposed to be if he's not my dad?" Thomas burst out in laughter. Then he placed his arms around Stella. "Honey, don't be mad at me. I'm sure Dad slapped Hachi because he was trying to bite him. He wasn't mad at you, I promise. If you're mad, hit me, okay? Let's not accuse him of murder because you're not happy with the way he's acting, all right?" Thomas genuinely thought that Stella was nitpicking because she was mad that James had scolded her. Stella, however, couldn't voice her true thoughts. So she shook her head. "Forget it. I'm not mad. Don't overthink it, okay? I won't." Finally, Stella decided to change the subject. She was worried that Thomas might tell James and wake the sleeping wolf. Chloe and Jack entrusted her with such a big secret. She didn't tell Thomas what they had told her, because she knew Thomas could be very naive. Plus, like Sandra, Thomas was too emotional when it came to James and trusted him no matter what he did or said. That evening, Stella tossed and turned on her bed, unable to fall asleep. She was horrified by what had happened in their complex. If this all really had to do with James, then who was he? Was he just no more than a psychopath? Would he hurt Sandra and Thomas? Did he have other things on his agenda? Oh, the other side of the world. Professor Wagner left the States alone with a face mold and headed for Iceland. On his way there, he called Fiona and tried to stop her and Jack from rescuing Chloe and Justin. He really thought that some giant conspiracy was behind this kidnapping. To his disappointment, Fiona refused to stay put and even hung up on him. This left Professor Wagner more anxious than ever. Therefore, he immediately headed to Iceland. When Dr. Lynn sustained a bullet in her brain and fell into a deep coma, Professor Wagner didn't want his wife to be brain dead, so he froze her body using very advanced technology. He hoped that one day he would be able to resurrect her with his own research. Over the last few years, he's tried everything to wake Lynn up, but sadly, failed again and again. If Jack didn't tell him about James's return, Professor Wagner wouldn't even think of Lynn. But now, Professor Wagner, wearing a thick down jacket, slowly walked into the depths of the ice cave. As expected, the coffin, which was of ice, was empty. Lynn had disappeared. Fiona had told him that last time she was here, Lynn was still sleeping inside. But the problem was, Fiona was here not too long ago. Did Lynn really wake up during this short amount of time? How was that possible? Back then, Professor Wagner had confirmed multiple times that Lynn was still in a deep coma. Without some outside force stimulating her brain, there was no way Lynn would have woken up. However, who was capable of waking up? Even a medical genius like himself failed after years and years of research. Or maybe someone kidnapped Lynn? Was this just some huge conspiracy? Professor Wagner stood there, more confused than ever. When Jack told him about James's resurrection over the phone, Professor Wagner immediately thought back at his experiment with Lynn. Years and years ago, they were researching how to bring the dead back to life. However, after testing on hundreds of lab mice, they deemed that their experiment had failed. This experiment was actually one of the most interesting ones they did. Aside from himself and Lynn, no one knew about it. So here was the question. Who in the world was the James in the country? Professor Wagner was certain that dead people could not be resurrected. Moreover, James's body would have rotted years ago. Did that mean whoever resurrected James also restored his body? Professor Wagner's pupils tightened. He was too scared to think any further. From James's resurrection to Lynn's disappearance, from Chloe leaving to rescue Justin to Fiona, and Jack leaving to rescue Chloe, this all felt like a giant net, just waiting to capture all of them. Complicated thoughts ran through Professor Wagner's head as he slowly walked out of the ice cave. He pressed on his communication device and called Fiona's number. Beep, beep, beep. This was not a good sign. Fiona's watch was solar-powered, so it never turned off on its own. Moreover, this line was never busy, because this was their only method of communication. This secret method of communication was one of Professor Wagner's proudest inventions, and he knew how good it was. Therefore, these beeps really worried him. It meant that Fiona's signals were blocked off completely. Who was capable of such technology? Professor Wagner wondered how powerful these people were. There was a reason he told Fiona and Jack not to go rescue Chloe. It wasn't that he wasn't worried about his own daughter. Although she didn't grow up near him, he loved Chloe just as much as he loved Fiona. Professor Wagner just didn't want Jack and Fiona to walk into this trap. However, at this moment, there was nothing more he could do, no matter how worried he was. He quickly dialed Riker's number. The latter was currently in the Bermuda Triangle, looking for Nan, who had gone into hiding. Impatient, Riker originally wanted to go back to the country to meet with Fiona. However, he didn't know where she went. During their last conversation, Fiona was still on her private jet, flying towards the country. He thought Fiona was in the city this entire time. Riker. Professor Wagner called Riker's name like he was his own son. Uncle Wagner? Riker asked with surprise. After all, Professor Wagner rarely called Fiona, let alone himself. Are you still in the Bermuda Triangle? I'm just about to leave. Okay. Have you been in contact with Fiona? Yes, I thought she went back to the city. Apparently something happened to Chloe, Riker explained calmly. So you didn't know that she went to Yunnan? Professor Wagner sighed. Fiona's in Yunnan? Riker was taken aback. Yunnan was quite close to the Bermuda Triangle. Why didn't Fiona say anything? I lost contact with Fiona, and I think she's in danger. What happened, Professor Wagner? Riker sat up nervously when he heard that Fiona might be in danger. Long story short, Jack and Fiona went to Yunnan to rescue Chloe, but I think it's just a trap. I think someone lured her there on purpose. Fiona called me before she and Jack got there, and I tried talking them out of it, but they didn't listen. I think they're there already. I'm in Iceland and won't make it in time. If you're still in the Bermuda Triangle, can you take some of your men there with you? I'll head there right now. Riker nodded with resolve. Riker, listen to me. Once you find them, get them to safety immediately. Don't prolong the fight. If it really is her, you guys will lose without question. Only Professor Wagner knew how powerful she really was. He knew that in Lynn's eyes, Fiona, Riker, and the others were no more than kindergartners. I understand, Professor Wagner. I'm on my way. I'll send you the coordinates. Take care of yourself and come back soon, okay? Okay. After their conversation, Professor Wagner cracked Chloe's location using the codes that Jack had given him when Zoe called her. Then, he sent the location to Riker. Riker, along with a dozen of his men, flew his private jet straight to the heart of a forest in Yunnan. At the same time, Chloe, who was stuck in the small room, kept asking to see the person behind the conspiracy. Hunter didn't think Layla would agree to seeing Chloe. After all, she was such a proud person. To his surprise, however, Layla agreed. Bring her here, she said to Hunter, leaving the latter a little surprised. Do you really want to see her? Of course I do. Don't you think I'm brave enough to see her? Layla smiled. That's not what I meant. I just don't see the point. We look exactly the same. Even our body features are identical. I'm curious to see mine and her expression when we see each other. It'll be like looking into a mirror, right? Upon hearing this, Hunter turned around and headed towards the room Chloe was locked up in, along with a few men. When the door opened, Chloe looked up at Hunter without a speck of surprise. Hi, Chloe, Hunter greeted her warmly. Don't call me that. Don't pretend you're Andrew. You disgust me, Hunter. Haha, good. You saw right through me. Hunter laughed with no restraint. Chloe looked at Hunter calmly. She felt emotional as her face glazed over the familiar face in front of her. He's always gentle, yet you look at me like I'm some kind of prey. No wonder they call you a genius. I didn't think you'd detect something as small as this. Come on, I'll take you to my master. Chloe stood up slowly, one hand on her back and the other hand supporting her belly. She was so far along that it was very inconvenient to move around swiftly. Hunter's eyes landed on Chloe's belly. He looked up and down, but didn't utter a word. Before leaving the room, Chloe turned around and glanced at Justin with concern. He was still affected by the anesthesia and didn't look like he was going to wake up without the antidote. Maybe that was a good thing? Sleeping was definitely better than the pain he was feeling before. Just like that, Chloe, following closely behind Hunter, headed towards Layla's room. When they passed by Zoe along the way, she smiled triumphantly. Batch, you're screwed. Our master will make sure you die an ugly death. Zoe sincerely thought that her master wanted to see Chloe because she wanted to kill her. Chloe glanced nonchalantly at Zoe and smiled. Don't be too sure of yourself. The people around her looked at Chloe with weird expressions on their faces. How could she still be smiling? Zoe scoffed. Like every other woman who despised Chloe, Zoe hated how calm Chloe was all the time. All she wanted to see was Chloe scared to death and begging on her knees. But she didn't. Chloe was never one to be scared of death. The moment she left the city with her unborn child to save Justin, she knew that she might not come back alive. If a person wasn't scared of death, what else would scare her? The ground was a little slippery from the recent rainfall. Chloe, who wasn't paying attention, suddenly slipped and fell towards a puddle of water. She thought she would for sure fall on her face. However, right before she kissed the ground, someone grabbed her. Assuming that it was one of Hunter's lackeys, she turned around to thank them. However, it turned out to be Hunter himself. "What kind of idiot are you? How are you supposed to rescue others with a brain like yours?" Hunter never liked Chloe, so he was still rude as ever, even though he helped her up. Chloe looked at him gratefully and didn't snap back at him. As her hand touched Hunter's hand, the warmth of his palm suddenly reminded her of Andrew, and when he kept her captive on that island. She remembered how obsessed and in love with her he was. Looking down, Chloe continued walking slowly towards Layla's room. "You guys can go." Hunter turned around and looked at his lackeys. "Yes, sir." "Go in, she's waiting for you," Hunter said. "Okay," Chloe nodded. "Chloe, are you really not scared of dying? If you die, your baby, husband, everything you have..." Hunter trailed off, but Chloe knew what he wanted to say. "People die every day. Rather than being scared of death, why not embrace the plans of God?" Chloe said as she glanced at Hunter with a smile. "Thank you for helping me just now." Then, she turned around, opened the door, and walked in. Chloe's smile was so infectious that it left Hunter frozen on the stop for at least 3 seconds. As he turned around to walk away, he began to realize what kind of person Chloe really was. The room Chloe walked into was the biggest in the area. It was 3 stories tall and decorated luxuriously. It also seemed deserted. Instinctively, she headed upstairs. The second floor was decorated like the first. They both looked like giant living rooms. Finally, she arrived on the 3rd floor. There was a giant bed in the middle of the room, and a woman with a sexy figure laid on top of the bed. Her back was against Chloe, and she was wearing a white men's shirt. She seemed very seductive. Her hair wasn't very long and fell down naturally to her shoulders. Chloe stared at her. Why did she look so familiar? Had she met this woman before? "Chloe, we finally meet." Chloe froze to her spot upon hearing this voice. Was this her own voice? Was she hearing things? Thanks for tuning in to the Cool Audio Podcast. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with a fellow story lover. Until next time, stay cool and keep listening.